Greetings and welcome to the 57th episode of Morrowind Showcases. As always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and today we have another selection of 13 more mods for your viewing pleasure. And this is actually the second episode of Morrowind Showcases that we're releasing this week, because we've been a bit behind schedule, and we really need to catch up here, because we're, just a couple of months behind, honestly. And as always with our odd-numbered episodes, we have a bunch of random themed mods today, including a ton of interesting and exciting locations to visit, fantastic new gameplay additions, and much more. And real quick, I would like to announce that our next episode for next week is going to be a special episode looking at Wizard's Island, one of the largest finished Landmass mods made for Morrowind. We've already finished all the video recording for this, so it's pretty much ready to go for next Saturday. And after that, we'll be returning to our numbered episodes as usual. And I would like to just real quick mention that my audio recording program is still not working, hence why we're still using the substitute program, in case you're wondering about the audio quality here. And anyway, you can find down the links for the mods shown here down in the video description below. So let's go ahead and get started with our popular mod of the week, which this week is Cavern the Incarnate Overhaul by Ivolga. Now, this is a replacer and graphical upgrade for the Cavern the Incarnate, as the name of this mod would imply, one of the main quest locations you get to visit during the Morrowind main quest. In vanilla Morrowind, it was this small cave here with a statue of Azura, where you'd get to talk to his spirit and, get the moon and star ring, but it wasn't really that graphically appealing, to be honest. This mod quite naturally changes that, making this cavern feel a lot more, magical than it did in vanilla Morrowind, with, a complete replacer for, pretty much everything in this cavern, including the walls, ceilings, and rocks that adds a sort of, starry glow to everything, as well as, coming with a replacer for the statue of Azura, and also a small plugin that adds in fireflies, unique flowers, and some cool lighting effects in here. This is by no means a big mod or anything, but it can't be understated how cool this graphical effect is, especially if you've been playing the main quest for a while and finally get to this point. It's, really quite beautiful and scenic, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. For our house mod of the week this week, we have former Hlaalu Outpost, West Gash region by VvardenfellTribez, and this is a scenic and, rather beautiful looking Hlaalu-style abode out in the West Gash region, a little ways from Nissus, I believe. The mod's background story involves the Hlaalu building this remote outpost to spy on their rivals in Raydoran territory, but had to, abandon it after getting in some legal trouble for, unlawful colonizing or some such, and either way, it's a very nice looking and extremely detailed looking abode, even on the exterior side here. This is the latest mod from VvardenfellTribez, and I know I said this a lot in the past, but, he's seriously one of the most talented level designers I've seen in the community recently, with a really good eye for detail. But anyway, this house includes a number of different levels and outdoor areas, with, multiple balconies, docks, and patios for you to enjoy the scenic surroundings of the West Gash with, including a number of cozy outdoor seating areas. And before you can move in, though, you'll have to buy this house, and you'll need to be a member of Great House Hlaalu first, as well as, giving the guard here 2,000 gold for the key, which I guess is, kind of a bribe, honestly. And just walking around a little bit outside first, I kind of want to show you guys just, the sheer amount of detail and clutter this house has on the exterior. With, a number of tables, piles of loot and clutter, ledges, and archery practice target up here, with lots of arrows, and just, some really cool looking designs in place. And before you really even get inside, this home feels incredibly lived in and atmospheric that really just, feels a bit unique. And heading inside, one of the first rooms you'll come across is the dining room. And it should be noted that since this outpost has been abandoned for years, you'll find a lot of rodents and other creatures roaming about that you'll have to kill before, you can claim this home as your own. And the outpost, like the exterior, is fully cluttered as well, with lots of decorations and detail, including a strange Aoimevelho statue in the dining room that just seems a bit odd. But anyway, the entire house is one big interior cell, and I don't remember the exact object count in here, but I believe it's north of 1,000 objects. So you may notice a little bit of lag in here. And anyway, the house has a rather interesting layout, with nearly every available space taken up by furniture or clutter or some combination of items, again adding to that, lived-in feel I was talking about. And there's a lot of hammocks, tables, and beds, and even the smallest hallways and stairwells, surprisingly. though it's definitely a nice design. And keep in mind, this mod may be considered a bit overpowered because there's a lot of loot lining the walls and corridors here that's free for the taking. And you'll also find a study library up on one of the upper floors, but you'll notice there's also an awful lot of undead in here for some reason that you'll have to, fight through first in order to gain access to it. And anyway, once all those are taken care of, you'll find a rather cozy and extremely cluttered library and study, including some background documents that add a bit of history to this outpost. And there's actually a few of these notes and letters lying around, and the library actually connects up to the master bedroom as well. And this is just a really cool and unique house mod that's well worth checking out. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Chargen Revamped, Expanded Lands by Texafornian, and this is basically a complete overhaul and a complete redesign of the Chargen process when you first start the game, adding a ton of new features, options, and randomization choices for how you start the game that's all in line with a traditional Dungeons and Dragons sort of experience. Now, as soon as you start a new game, you get to pick whether you want the original unaltered start to the game, where you get off at the boat in Cedernine, or whether you want a custom start, a random start, or a quick start that you can use for getting a character finished quickly so you can, go test mods or whatnot. And once you select your option, you go through the Chargen options like normal, selecting your race, class, birth sign, and so on and so forth. But after that, there's a lot of new sections of the custom Chargen start that you can, modify, such as your attributes. You can decide how much of each attribute and each skill you want to start out with. You're given a small number of points assigned to your desired attributes and skills, and those of you who have played D&D games in the past may recognize this as a rather similar character creation process. If you want to be an all-powerful warrior with a strength of 100 and a long blade skill of 100, you can, start out with all that. Though, at the cost of having nearly every other skill and attribute at an absurdly low level. But the point is, this gives you a lot more customization in the character generation process that allows you to tweak your character to your heart's content. And another new addition here is the ability to choose 2 starting spells that your character has, which I don't think ever got to do in the vanilla game, and this also extends to, being able to choose 2 starting items as well. So you can start out with a weapon and some armor if you want, or if you're a mage, you can, start out with a partial alchemy set, or any of a dozen other items. And another really cool addition here is starting companions. You can choose to start with one of 3 basic starting out companions, a mage, a warrior, or a ranger. And these are, simple NPC companions to follow you around on your travels through Vardenfell right from the very beginning, if you so desire. And you also notice there's a randomize option throughout each step of this process. This allows you to randomize the skills, attributes, companions, and everything else you have to choose from. Just in case there's some parts of your character that you don't want to, personally customize. And also one of the biggest features here, you can choose your starting location. Instead of just, Cedernine, you can start in Vivek, Ebenhart, Dagenfell, Caldera, a Quama mine, some farm in the middle of nowhere, Voss, Solstein, and you have Tamari built, somewhere on the mainland, or if you have Solstein to the Snow Prince, there's also support for that as well. There's just dozens of different starting locations, so you could, start out just about anywhere on Vardenfell, which allows for just a lot of customization and variety. And in any event, once you've chosen or randomized a starting location, you'll pop up there with a note informing you to go to Cedernine to start the main quest. And regardless of where you start, you'll find your companion, if you have one, nearby. And they have a lot of basic companion features such as companion share, and I believe they also level up with you as you level up, which provides for a pretty cool role-playing experience. And this is basically the ultimate Chargen mod, and you should definitely check this out if you haven't already. Next up is our dungeon mod of the week, which this week is Untitled Expanded by JSP25, and this is an expansion and overhaul of the Landmass Mine, located deep in the Ashlands region along the Ghost Fence, a stone's throw away from Red Mountain. And the original ebony mine in vanilla Morrowind was staffed only by Ashlander miners with no guards or other protections, and this mod overhauls a fair amount to the original interior, expanding it slightly, adding in new details, as well as some guards to protect the miners in what is a fairly volatile region. And this expansion includes new areas of destroyed minecarts and rails, where the gods have had trouble with a Daedric shrine they've, stumbled across while mining. And there's also some background and flavor documents that, go into a bit of the history here. But, aside from the wreckage and pools of lava, you won't really find too many hostile Daedra down here until you get deep into the mines. And it should be mentioned that this expansion is very dark, and you'll have to, travel through the dark depths of the Animus in order to get to the new areas, including some potentially, perilous sudden falls, pools of lava that you'll need to jump through or fly over, and of course Daedra Lords, some of which have unique weapons. I think this southern might have something called a Daedric chainsaw, which is certainly quite interesting. And of course, this isn't a huge dungeon per se. It does add a couple of new interior cells expanding the original Animus mine, which are, fairly well hidden, and you'll have to keep an eye out in order to find them, as well as some new areas in the original interior cell for you to, fight through and explore. And all in all, this is a nice little dungeon romp with some, surprises waiting for you down in the darkness below. And you should consider giving it a try if you're a fan of dungeon mods. For our items of the week this week, we have Nissus Imperial Traitor by Crank Gorilla. And this adds a rather unique looking and very cluttered shop to the town of Nissus, as you might expect from the mod name. There's a lot of interesting and unique items in here. Crank Gorilla has released a lot of mods like this over the years in a pretty wide variety of locations across Vardenfell, and this is one of his latest shop mods that relies heavily on modders' resources to add something a bit different to the game. And naturally, this means the Imperial behind the counter here has quite a few new things for sale, from bits and bobs to unique decorations, books, potions, and a few other curious items that you can use to clutter your homes with. And of course, this wouldn't be a Crank Gorilla mod without, some fun little extra features here and there. You'll find a merchant here who'll, take any hides you gather out in the world for a generous return in gold. And there's also a slight minigame with hidden items throughout the property that you can collect to win a prize, among other things. And anyway, you can see some of the new items included in this mod here, and you'll find globes of Tamriel, new light sources, wall hangings, gems, paintings, and pillows for sale from the Imperial Traitor Nissus. A lot of these objects have movement and placement scripts on them, so you can adjust their position on the fly, including their height, rotation, and you can even scale them up and down, which is, certainly quite convenient. There's also a number of potions and other decorations here which you can use to add a bit of character to your abode. And this is a really nice item mod with a lot of extra features to it that makes it certainly worthwhile to check out. This week's quest mod of the week is Skyfury Keep by Stormwind. And with this mod, you'll find a countess in the tavern in Ebonheart, who mentions a desire to sell her old estate on the Morrowind mainland. And if you're interested, you can finalise the deal with her associate at the docks here. But the estate isn't actually free, of course. There's a quest involved to get it that you'll, have to go through first. And namely, you'll have to go through and kill a bunch of Daedra in an old glass mine, as you can see here. And they do put up a bit of a fight. This is a minor bit of dungeon delving, and once you've cleared out all the Daedra, you can return to get the keys to your new abode. And in a way, this is really more of a house mod than it is a quest or dungeon mod. But this has been on the back burner for a while. We were actually supposed to showcase it a long time ago, so we kinda just needed to go ahead and cover it. But in any event, this is a large enclosed estate on the mainland, with some really impressive walls towering above and closing off the estate from the outside world. And the primary building here is the main keep, which is surrounded by a moat that's, really more of a pond, with some fish swimming in it and the like. And the grounds are, nicely taken care of, with some flowering trees and lots of little rabbits roaming around here and there. The estate does come with a complement of NPC staff, most of whom offer some basic services, as well as some unique dialogue. And going inside, you'll find a grand foyer with a roaring fireplace in the middle, with chairs where guests can sit and, wait to be seen, as well as lots of decorative suits of armor and a few display cases. And back behind the main entrance, you'll find the dining room, including a large dining room table with some musical instruments for bards to play, and access to the kitchen. And the kitchen really isn't that much to look at, though you'll find a couple of NPC staff here, again with some unique dialogue and some new topics to talk about. Now, as you might expect with a house of this size, it does come with at least one guest bedroom, including 2 beds, a roaring fireplace, and a generally speaking warm and cozy set of chambers where you can keep some companions if you so desire. Naturally, you'll also find a master bedroom, which is complete with a large king-size bed, a set of dressers, another roaring fireplace, a small desk and study area where you'll find a note left by the previous owners and a teleport ring that you can use to get back to your home at any time, as well as a small personal bathing chamber for you to use if you so desire. And the estate does include a number of other rooms, such as a small library, a magical lab, where you'll find some basic alchemical equipment, a display hall with a number of, tables, and some display cases with lids that can be opened. And there's also a training room down in the basement with practice dummies that you can hit around. And this is a small but, rather nice housing and quests mod that's fairly nice to check out with basically no mod conflicts. Next up, we have our Landmass Mod of the Week, which this week is Eden by Martini60. And this mod just, kind of starts out when you buy a mysterious key from the Balmora Mages Guild. And when you activate it in your inventory, it'll take you to a new landmass that's far away from Vardenfell. And this new landmass is basically a peaceful, tranquil, sort of garden island, I guess, with some, scenic and lovely surroundings inhabited by non-hostile and friendly creatures. The island itself isn't very large, just a small set of plains with a couple of small ponds here and there, a forest in between, and an open-air pavilion to one side. And this open-air pavilion is sort of a house that you can use, with a bed, some storage, and lots of lovely and scenic gardens surrounding the place to make you feel at home. And truth be told, this is a very old mod. It was first released in 2003 on Morrowind Summit as one of the first wave of landmass mods to be released for Morrowind. But unlike most of the other, more ambitious landmass mods that were being released at the time, this one had a very simple premise to merely give the player a beautiful and relaxing place to explore away from all the, hostile creatures and adventuring of Vardenfell, where you could, at the end of a long day, just, sit back and enjoy the scenery. And this was actually one of my favourite little landmass mods back in the day. I used to play this a lot with my Morrowind save games back in 2003 and 2004. It was just this really scenic and nice looking island where I could, get away for a while. And it has a lot of, scenic features as well, as we'll get to in a moment. Now, nearly everything on this island can be controlled, turned on or off by various pylons that you'll find in the gardens. Like the creatures, you can have them, stay friendly, turn them off entirely, or make them hostile so you can, fight them. Likewise, you can turn on the atmospheric lighting, turn it off, or have it only come on at night time. There's a lot of, unique music included here as well that you can turn on and off as you so desire. And real quick, I did just want to show off what this place looks like at night, because the island is quite possibly even more beautiful at night with lots of atmospheric and colourful lighting effects, with blues, purples and greens making for a fantastic display as you go from the pond to the forest back to the pavilion. And something to note here, this mod does come with a fireworks display that you can launch whenever you desire, and it produces, quite a lovely show in the night sky above. There's several fireworks launchers that basically fire custom spell effects into the sky to create a scenic nighttime show that's, a lot of fun to sit back and watch, and this is probably one of my favourite little features here. And this is just a really nice and relaxing mod, and on the plus side, this mod is compatible with pretty much every other mod out there, including Tower Rebuilt, Morrowind Rebirth, and most of the landmass mods, since it's positioned to the very far north of Vardenfell, so you can play this with just about everything else, and I'd really highly recommend giving it a try. For our NPC Mod of the Week this week, we have Herotha Race by Sabergirl, and this is another one of Sabergirl's numerous playable race mods from Morrowind. We've covered a couple of them in the past, but, we still have quite a few to go, and the Herotha here are a sort of mixed beast race and sort of elvish race, with, some similarities both to Khajiit and Aldmer, so you might call them a bit of a hybrid really. They're particularly unique in that they don't have the, sort of traditional binary gender system, but they actually have three genders, male, female, and a sort of beast race female version. Each gender has about 2 heads and 3 hairstyles to choose from. And starting out, you can see a male Herotha here, and he looks pretty much what you might expect an elf to look like, with, golden skin similar to high elves, but you'll notice there's almost a fur-like quality to the skin here, as well as some rather, large and floppish ears that make this race a bit more distinct from other races. Now, it should be noted that this mod only comes in one version with nude bodies, so there's no underwear version as far as I know, which is just, something to keep in mind if that's not really something you want in your game. And real quick, here you can see a female Herotha, which she actually, kind of looks like something similar to the Bretons a little bit, only with an oddmer skin tone and, again, those large, floppish ears. But again, you'll notice that sort of fur-like quality to the arms here, so there's, some similarities to the Khajiits as well. And last of all, we have the third gender option, the sort of beast female, which is quite frankly massive. Compared to the vanilla Morrowind races, these Herotha stands much taller and, well, larger than even the Aldmer or any other race that's in vanilla Morrowind. And, they quite obviously have some pretty close similarities to Khajiits with tails, claws, and cat-like faces, though again with the large ears that make them fairly distinct from pretty much any other race in the game. There's certainly some rather interesting character options here, and if you're looking for a new race to play as, you might want to consider giving them a try. This week's new meshes and textures mod of the week is Red Voss by Tighty and Melkor Dog, and this is a mod that's pretty much in the same vein as one of Melkor's other mods, White Strand, that he co-authored with Basswalker. And at this rate, I fully expect Melkor to, release a joint replacer mod with Logan, replacing the town of Morgan with green or blue coloured architecture. I mean, just considering that he's already done this with 2 towns so far, it's only the natural next step after all. But anyway, you'll find that the familiar Velothi architecture here has been given a very slight reddish tint, using Tidy's superb Velothi texture replacer as a base. And, Voss has always been a rather interesting village. There's nothing else quite like it in vanilla Morrowind. And now it has a bit more of a unique flavour, with some unique characteristics to make it stand out from the plazas and cantons of Vivec, while, adding a colour scheme that works pretty well with the Grazelands landscape here. And real quick, here you can see one of the interiors of Voss, and it does, replace the interiors as well. And this is just a really nice mod to have if you want to make one of the locations on Vardenfell a little more colourful and interesting. And next up, we have our modest resource mod of the week. And this week, we have Asian Resource Pack Sakura by Redwood Tree Sprite. And this is a modest resource that adds a lot of Asian-themed trees that you could, potentially use in your own mods. Many of these are retextured trees from other resources, like Lady E's trees, or Nidib's trees, or so on and so forth, that now come with red, white, and pink blossoms to make for, some rather scenic forests and gardens if you choose to use them. A few of these trees are even animated to produce fine cherry blossoms, which adds a nice scenic and atmospheric touch to everything. And keep in mind, this is a pretty old resource, so it may not, necessarily hold up very well compared to today's more modern tree replaces. But these are still some, nice looking resources that can be used to give your mods a more unique and decorative feel. In particular, they're especially useful for gardens or for, Asian themed homes. I believe the famous Japanese house mod actually used some of the trees from this resource, so that should give you a pretty good idea of the potential here. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we have Arnenia by Cardboard Box, and this mod basically starts out when you meet this fellow outside the trade house in Cidanin. Apparently he's complaining about a woman that the innkeeper has, sort of fallen in love with, and if you go inside, you'll get an informal quest to, try and find her. And this will basically take you all over Vardenfell as you try and pin down her exact location. She apparently has homes all over the place, and people have a lot of, mixed feelings about her. But when you finally do find her, you'll get the key to her numerous abodes, and as it turns out, she was a bit of a wizard, and linked up her many homes across Vardenfell through a series of doors, so she could, get to each abode from the others. And as you explore these various abodes that come in a variety of different styles, you'll find logs of adventures that'll give you, sort of an account of how this all came to be. And the numerous homes you'll find include a house in Saran, which you can see here down by the Saran waterfront and docks, as well as many other properties I'll be, looking at in a minute. And each home is fairly nicely finished, with at least, a dining room and a bedroom on the property, as well as some storage, basically allowing you to live in a multitude of cities, including Ebonheart, Dagenfell, Sedrithmora, Kor, and Cidanin. And some of these homes are nicer than others, like the Dagenfell residence here, which includes a nicely decorated and cozy front hall with a roaring fireplace and a large and comfy bedroom up on the second floor. And truth be told, this is probably one of the most underrated mods that we've showcased in this category. originally updated in 2006, it only received about 100 downloads and 1 endorsement on the Nexus since it was published, which strikes me as a bit odd for what's actually a pretty good mod that's been cleaned, contains no major bugs, and shows, pretty competent and well done designs and, basic storytelling. I guess it was probably just, poorly advertised or something like that. And anyway, the largest of the homes here provides you with a large display hall, including display cases, some armor display mannequins that you can use to show off your, various clothes and armors, as well as the usual bed, study, and dining areas. And if you're looking for a fun little house mod that, you have to work to earn, that also comes with a sort of fast travel system with connected properties across Vardenfell, you should definitely give this one a try. This week's Blast from the Past of the Week is the Moat House by Cavern, and this one starts out when you meet one of the guard captains in Pleasiad, and he gives you a quest to clear out an old Imperial fortification just north of town. And this will take you to the old Imperial Moat House ruins, which are on a small island in Lake Aoimevelho here, where the Imperials used to keep watch over the region, but for whatever reason the keep fell into disrepair and disuse after Fort Pleasiad became the preferred Imperial fortification in the region. And regardless, these old ruins are rather scenic in a way, with, some old destroyed walls leading into a courtyard where trees and flowers have started to, creep in and take over after the Imperials abandoned the place. And the design is also quite unique, unlike any other Imperial forts or fortifications I've seen in Morrowind or in other mods, with some pretty cool little additions and details to make it stand out, including some exterior stairwells that you can enter and partially go up, which is a pretty cool feature and helps, sell this as a ruined keep. And inside you'll find a group of bandits that have taken over the keep in the absence of the Imperial garrison. And these are the residents that the guard captain back in Pleasiad once cleared out. The first few rooms here are pretty easy, and most of the bandits shouldn't prove to be too much of a challenge. Anyone, I'd say, above about level 8 or so should be fine here, though keep in mind there's naturally some secrets and deeper chambers hiding below that might require a higher level character, and anyway, you'll find a number of flavor documents in this dungeon that provide a bit of a story and, a sort of history of the place about what's going on here. And why all these bandits have come here in the first place, so I'm going to, try and not spoil everything here. And anyway, after you clear out the bandits, most of this first level is actually just empty rooms with just ruined corridors, stairwells, tender furniture, and the occasional rat, or in a couple of cases, Nyx hounds that you'll need to fight through. And of course, there's much more to this abandoned fort than first meets the eye. And you'll find a key on one of the bandits that'll, allow you to access the lower levels, where you'll find a Velothi tomb that this fort was conveniently built over, complete with lots of undead minions that you'll need to clear out for the quest here. And overall, this is a pretty big dungeon mod with a couple of hours of content and a fair amount of background story, and lots of opponents to face, not to mention a couple of quests for you to do. That said though, this is in a rather conflict-heavy region, but if you don't mind all that too much, you should, definitely consider giving this mod a try. Finally, for our bonus song of the week this week, we have Improved Governor's Hall by Miranda Nalo, and I do apologise if I mispronounced that name. And this mod aims to make the Caldera Governor's Hall feel a little bit more like, an actual Governor's Hall, instead of just a very sparsely detailed interior. And it does this by adding a lot more tables and a raised platform where the governor can, hear requests, as well as a musician stand where bards can, provide some background music. And there's also new bedrooms that have been added in for the NPC staff as well. And the really big change here is to the governor's quarters, which is now a 4-room suite. That includes an entry hall with a roaring fireplace, a dining room in the back for the governor to take meals, a small library and magical lab. And it should be mentioned that you could use these chambers as a sort of house mod, assuming you don't mind the governor just lurking about. And of course there's a master bedroom as well. And this is just a small mod that improves the interior of the governor's hall a bit, and makes it a bit more, interesting to visit really. And anyway, that wraps up this episode of Morrowind Showcases. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week with our big, Wizards Island special showcase. And in the meantime, we do have a number of smaller videos coming down the line later on, so, do stay tuned for that.